Hello and welcome to PGurus channel. I'm your host Sri Iyer. Today Abhijit Iyer-Mitra joins us to give us his take on China and COVID-19. Abhijit, welcome to PGurus channel.
Har Har Mahadev, great to be on PGurus as usual.
I was expecting you to say Incha Ganesha because look who's standing behind me or sitting behind me.
At an appropriate time.
So, China COVID-19, you have been, tweeting about this, and I'm just curious: is China to be blamed for COVID-19, or is it some other country that seeded China with this, and now they are making China to be stuck with that? What do you think? What, according to Abhijit, is the truth?
Look, these are just lay opinions, and I'm afraid, some of them might actually be conspiracy theories. So I'm not going to get into the medical aspect of it. I'm simply going to get into the government handling aspect of it. Fact that this was known by some time in late October, early November.
Right.
Fact, the Chinese tried to suppress it. They tried to punish anyone talking about it. They asked the local laboratory to destroy records. Fact, they underplayed it for a long time. Fact, they leaned on the WHO to give out false and malicious advice. Fact, the WHO and its director, Dr. Theodros, agreed and gave out false and malicious advice that has contributed to it. Therefore, as far as I am concerned, and we have to remember, much like the Germans were the first and the worst victims of Nazi Germany, it's important to remember that the Chinese did not do this. It was the Chinese Communist Party that did this, which is why I will keep calling it the CCP virus or the WHO virus. And, there is a reason for that. It is because that the effects of this virus have been compounded by the Chinese Communist Party and the WHO.
Well, today in a press conference, even President Trump was asked the same question, and he parried off the question to Dr. Anthony Fauci, who is the director of, all the related to this epidemics and so on and so forth. And Dr. Fauci said, as far as he knew, this is about the WHO director, and he said, as far as I know, this person is a very, very good person of fine standing. But to the specific question about why he's leaning towards China, he didn't really give an answer one way or the other. So he's sort of like saying, personally, I think this guy is a good guy, but he's stopping short of saying that he could be essentially singing China's tune. Do you think, is that what happened?
I personally think that's exactly what happened, because remember, you don't get to these positions based on merit. You get to these positions based on the politics you play. Everybody who is in the top of an international organization is there because of the politics they play. And the fact remains that Dr. Theodros, in this particular case, clearly played politics.
Okay. Well, the fact that he was playing politics was brought to the world's attention by Taiwan, which surprisingly, if you notice, Taiwan has been relatively free of coronavirus, even though they are the closest neighbor to China. And again, in China also, the Shanghai area, which is the southern part, doesn't seem to have been affected that much, nor has the Beijing area been affected. So do you think that the Chinese wised up and made sure that the lockdown was effective around Wuhan, which is why the rest of the country didn't suffer?
So actually, Beijing, Shanghai, and Wuhan have been the three most affected. But most of it has been contained in Beijing and Shanghai, less so probably because of the strength of the government reaction. And now what we're seeing is the Chinese have asked people to get back to work. There was a news report yesterday. So I don't see the problem with China is there's no accurate reporting coming out of there at the moment. So everything that we're going to say is going to be complete speculation. We have no means of knowing what's happening out there. We know that there was a loss of almost 8 million people from their telephone networks this month. And, this has been attributed to lots of things, that Chinese people have SIM cards from 2-3 different operators, which they then keep shuttling around and all of that. It still doesn't explain the loss of 8 million subscribers overnight. So we don't know what's going on. But I think in a society like that, it's very easy to just control something through sheer brute force.
Now, what are the chances that this could make a resurgence again in China? One other thing that I want to ask you a follow-up question on what you said. If the Chinese industries are coming back online, I know for a fact no ship has left China's ports with exports in the last, I think, 8 weeks now. And then what are they manufacturing and for whom?
I really don't know. So this is the problem that we're facing. That with China, we have such a huge paucity of information. We don't know who is the manufacturer for. If export isn't happening, is it advanced manufacture? If so, in what particular things is it advanced manufacture? Because in case of chips and things like that, the replacement rate is so quick that if this crisis is I think it's going to continue for at least another 2-3 months, you're already looking at a 6-month replacement rate, and 3 months of that 6-month replacement rate, 3 to 4 months, you've already lost. So what does that mean? I don't know. I mean, again, the information coming out of China is so scarce, it's so patchy, because nobody's been able to report out there properly. All my normal sources on China that I relied on, primary sources, rebel sources, I always cross-check information in China, because Washington Post and New York Times, unfortunately, they've started getting so much Chinese investment in them. I don't trust their reportage that comes out of there, so I always try to cross-check, and it's highly problematic, because every a dissident website will have a natural tendency to overplay certain things. NYT WAPO will have a natural tendency to underplay certain things. So, it's very difficult to get pure, clear information out from there. I do talk to my friends. Unfortunately, right now, everything's in lockdown. So even they're not able to figure out much.
So I can think of a natural move away from China for some companies, at least, just to hedge their risks, to, let's say, spread their production over various countries. India.
I doubt that very much. I doubt that very much, and I'll tell you why. See, one of the things is, let me give you the example of what happened with rare earths. Rare earths aren't rare. Rare earths are these exotic metals. They're not like your normal iron, copper, whatever, that are critical for your technology.
Right, lithium-ion batteries and so on and so forth.
Exactly, all that funky stuff. Now, the thing is, rare earths aren't actually rare, but China has a near monopoly on their manufacture. Why? Because they simply outpriced everybody else from the market. And they do this in a very predatory and determined fashion. So, even if, and companies are always looking for profits. They are not looking for this sort of production hedging strategy and investing billions on something that may happen once in a century. Literally, think about it. It's literally been 100 years since something like this happened. The last big epidemic like this was the Spanish flu, the influenza epidemic during World War I. Since then, it's been 100 years since any of us, none of us have lived through this in living memory. When I was a kid in Madras, there was that bubonic plague outbreak in Rajasthan or something, Rajasthan, Gujarat, something like that. When, the only thing we did was stock up on tetracycline. That was it. And it was contained very, very quickly. We've not lived through something like this. So for companies to start investing billions in the hope that, another, in the belief that another, this thing will happen, I don't think there is that a demand side incentive. And on the supply side, China will see to it they keep underpricing everybody else in terms of production.
You have a point. I recently purchased a production professional microphone. It's about a foot long. I wish I could show it to you. It's tucked away in my boxes. A comparable product from other manufacturers, whether it is Japanese or even American, is $1,000. And this one, I got it for $29. I mean, I can buy 50 of those.
Yeah.
Okay, so that scares the heck out of me.
Even if it's bad quality and it breaks in about 8 months, you still can keep buying those mics. You can buy 10, 15, 20 of those mics before it actually breaks, even with having one mic that last you 10, 15 years.
Abhijit, the quality is very comparable, very comparable. In fact, if somebody were to switch the labels and say which one is what, they would not be able to figure out the difference. It is excellent quality. It's got excellent, directional microphones. I'm just telling you, this really spooked me because when I started working in high-tech industry, there was a company called Anritsu, Anritsu, out of Japan. And they used to essentially mimic Hewlett-Packard instruments. Hewlett-Packard would come in at $15,000, $20,000, and Anritsu would price them at $6,000 US. And these were the competitions in companies like Defense Labs. These are the days when APJ Abdul Kalam was the director at DRDL. DRDL is like the parent body that was directing all these things, like Trishul, Agni, Prithvi, and all those things. They needed a lot of equipment, and we would be always, and I used to work for HP at that time, would be always, struggling to defend why it is that HP should be bought when Anritsu was selling the same thing for you could buy 2 or 3 Anritsu analyzers. And the only thing we could keep telling was, look, ours is calibrated at US standards. We don't know what the calibration of Anritsu is, and somehow create that doubt. So, but Anritsu didn't last long because you can only, price yourself down for so long. So I'm curious what China's strategy is going to be in some of these things.
Look, China's strategy is very simple. There's a lot of fiscal doubt about the sustainability of Chinese practices. We've seen their construction boom. Their construction boom is completely unsustainable, which is why you're seeing ghost cities. I have friends who lived in a hutong. Hutong is kind of like a semi-slum compared to the rest of Beijing, in Beijing. And they were paying something like $200 per month for a 10-foot by 10-foot room. Just a detached room where they had to walk 500 meters in one direction to use the public showers and 200 meters in another direction to use the public toilets. And at the same time, these hutongs are being torn down and replaced by flats that will cost 1,500 per flat for a 2-bedroom flat. And this pushing more and more people out. So literally when you go to Beijing by 7 p.m., 8 p.m., you'll see Beijing is almost black. There's maybe 1 or 2 lights on in 1 or 2 flats in Beijing. That's about it. So, there's this ghost city phenomenon. There's a lot of unsustainability with the process.
Where's it? So,
and there's a lot put in their consumer isn't price sustainable. Their marketing not based on actual cost. Their marketing based on what they need to price. One second, let me finish. To price somebody out of the market, and then price gouging. So, for example, the H1+6 or something, people rave about the camera. I can honestly tell you, I won't buy it, and it's not worth the premiums that I charge.
Very interesting, and we'll wait and see how things pan out in China. Pardon us for the technical glitches that we are experiencing. Thank you very much, Abhijit, and we will meet you again soon. Hello?
Har Har Mahadev.